Hello and welcome to Mainline TV. This is John Ricciutti, and our person of interest today is Jay Tripp. Jay is a tattooist or tattoo artist, and we're going to have a little discussion today about tattooing and the history of it and those who follow it and are interested in it. So welcome to the club. Jay, thank you. Thanks for coming on. I appreciate
for having me.
You're located on the main line in the suburbs of Philadelphia.
In Berwyn, yeah.
Yeah, because we are broadcasting worldwide, and you can Google Jay Tripp tattoo, find out anything you want about him beyond what we talk about today.
Feel free to reach out.
Jay, what attracted you to tattooing, first of all?
So I was sort of born into it. Nepotism got me in my case. My father was a tattooer, and he was the one who taught me how to tattoo. It was very much against my will as a child. I didn't want much to do with the industry or his biker lifestyle. I was trying to be normal.
Your father was a biker?
Yeah, he rode, he had a 51 Panhead, a very specific Harley Davidson that he loved passionately before he was ever even a tattooer. And it was because of hanging around with tattooed people for so long. He worked at a print shop, he was designing logos, he had always been artistic. Tattooing sort of found him. And that's far more typical in the industry. That's the way most tattooers come into the industry, is the industry sort of adopts them. I've never related to that. I'm an outcast in that sense, in that tattooing chose me sort of in a much different way, though. And I've come to adopt it and have found that I do it in a way at this point that is my own and that I've come to love. But it took like the majority of my childhood and young adulthood to find what that is.
Where was your father's motorcycle club, I'll say, instead of, I'm not going to say gang?
Well, he actually wasn't clubbed, but he hung out with a bunch of people in Bucks County. There were always breed or pagan hang-arounds. There were a couple smaller local clubs, but because he was friends with everybody, he never really palled up with anybody.
Was your mom a biker?
Nah, she was a hippie. I'm still not really sure how the hippie and the biker got together, but yeah.
She was a hippie?
Yeah, is a hippie.
Still a hippie?
Yes, and is now living in San Francisco in true to style.
Really?
Yeah.
So you grew up in Bucks County. Where'd you go to high school?
Council Rock.
Well, your father did all right as a tattoo artist then, didn't he?
He did, and he went out of his way to move us into that neighborhood so that he could send his children to that school, regardless of what it did to him on a personal level. But I mean, the way they reacted to him, the way that upper middle class sect reacted to the guy with long black hair and a big full Grizzly Adams beard covered in tattoos from the neck to his fingertips, who probably always smelled a little bit like weed. And there was a form of discrimination against him that I noted as a child and was a big part of why I didn't want to be him and a tattooer. And I never wanted to be looked at the way they looked at him. I never wanted my children to be treated the way I was treated because of him. I never wanted any of those kinds of conflicts. And I intimately linked this industry with that personality type. It took me a very long time to realize you could do it your own way.
So you have your biker father and your hippie mother living in an upscale neighborhood.
Yes,
and people look down upon
completely the sore thumb in the neighborhood.
Yeah. Did you go to college?
I did a year at Drexel. Like I said, I was trying to be normal. Playing lacrosse at the time, and I got a scholarship, but an injury ended that, and I couldn't afford to stay there. So that's actually what brought me back to tattooing in the first place, was I realized shortly after that is I don't really know how to do anything else that can pay my bills, and so I better figure out a way to do this my way. And it happened to time up perfectly with around the same time they started to put tattooing on TV. And it broadened our industry in a way that it had never been broadened before, and gave me a chance to find a niche that probably wouldn't have existed before. The generational timing of when I came up worked out perfectly for me in my career.
Okay, so what would you have done if you went to Drexel on a lacrosse scholarship. Was that a full scholarship?
No, I was also in a part of the Navy ROTC program to pay the rest of it. And the plan at that time was I was studying mechanical engineering and trying to be a pilot in the Navy. I wanted to fly.
Wow.
Yeah, big difference, huh?
Yeah. So when you say your father taught you to tattoo, you mean you were learning as like while you were like a young kid, you were watching him, or?
I was 7 years old when he opened his first shop, and I was doing chores after school at the shop every day from then until I was almost 16. And at 7, my job was to clean out ashtrays and wipe nicotine stains off of flash racks, because at that time you could still smoke cigarettes in the tattoo studio. And worked my way up to cleaning bathrooms and answering phones and scheduling clients and drawing and learning history, reading all the books. He had a machine shop in the basement, so we built machines, hand fabricated tattoo machines and the parts, components that go into the machines completely from scratch. I actually got better at that than I was at drawing at the time. But I cared more about it. I liked it more. Whenever I went upstairs, it always felt like I was forced to be there, and I didn't really want to be there. I just wanted to clean the things I had to clean so that I can get out of there and go home. It felt like chores.
So when after you leave Drexel, you think, well, I've got to do something, and tattooing is something I can do.
Right. Yeah. Back to chores.
Is there a relationship? This just popped into my head. Is there a relationship between tattooing and scrimshaw?
Potentially. They both existed on boats for the longest Navy history. As long as there have been sailors on boats giving each other marks to signify the things that they've done in the places they've gone, there have probably been the same sailors marking the bones. And for a while, the bones were the tools of tattooing, so I'm sure they were linked in that way too.
That's your connection to the Navy, by the way.
Tattooing.
Yeah. That submariner's beard.
My grandfather too he was in the Navy. Great-grandfather in World War II. Yeah.
Tattoos. I see them as an expression of speech. Experiences, life changes, words to live by, etc. Is that it?
Self-expression, yeah. So legally, the United States considers tattoos speech, and so you can't be discriminated against for the content of your tattoos. But the tattoo itself is a choice, and you can be discriminated against legally for having tattoos regardless of what they are. So if you have a visible tattoo that somebody doesn't like in a professional job setting, it doesn't matter whether it's a tattoo of profanity or if it's a tattoo of a flower, it's a tattoo in a visible place. They're fully allowed within their rights to get rid of you for that. If they have a specific gripe with the specific imagery, they're beat. It's personal expression, it's self-expression. If you accept one, you accept all. Freedom of speech in this country. It also applies to copywriting. It's why you can tattoo Disney things. Because
you can't?
You can, absolutely.
You can.
And every once in a while, Disney does try to sue a tattooer for copyright infringement, but at the end of the day, the tattooer doesn't own the work. The tattooer didn't profit from the art. This person decided that they wanted to wear the art, and they went to somebody who could give it to them. And while technically they could eventually try to push it in the same way as like an off-market t-shirt, for now, there have been enough changes to every one of the little tattoos that Disney has taken to court that the court says 10%, 8%, whatever the legal threshold is for no longer copyright infringement has been applied. And because it's on skin, it is personal expression. It has nothing to do with the tattooer. There's no copyright issues whatsoever. Tattooing doesn't belong to us. It belongs to you. It belongs to the wearer.
It's 11:06. Good.
Well, there you go. That was Mickey Mouse.
Yeah.
If I walk into your shop, do you take a personal interest in me? I say, okay, I want to put this on my arm.
Oh, absolutely. I want to know why.
Do you think all tattoo artists do that?
I think most tattooers want to know why. I don't know that most tattooers can find a tactful way to ask. And there's gray area there, because there is always the fear, particularly from an artist who may not be as busy or may have a free moment and be looking to take a walk in. Somebody just walks into the shop and I have nothing to do that day and I'm hoping that I can make a little money. The last thing I want to do is ask a question that makes you go away. And so there is a legitimate fear in a lot of tattooers to not push too far, to not want to know too much. If you tell me, cool, I'm all ears, but I'm not going to press. As it pertains to the design, though, I feel it's our responsibility to ask, is we have to know what the goal is. And there's only so much translation we can do visually. Unless you have this exact thing that you want me to replicate, this is the image I want, this is where I want it, don't need any more questions for that. But if we're working together to figure out what the best answer is for you, I'm going to need to know what for you means, and I'm going to have to ask a couple questions to figure it out. And hopefully in that process we also build a little bit of a rapport that lets me understand what your goal with the tattoo is, that gives me some information that helps me pick between option A and option B in what would work artistically equally well but might not fit you equally well. I have to know who you are to be able to make that distinction.
Are there things that people ask you to put on their skin that you won't do?
Yeah, absolutely. Profanity is a thing I have a pretty hard line against. There are a few exceptions, and visibility also comes into play. If you want to put something in a place that nobody but you is ever going to see it, pretty much all bets are off. But racist things, anything discriminatory in any kind of way, anti-LGBT, anti-trans, anti-race, anti-religion, whatever.
Confederate flag.
The things that are inherently aggressively anti-something, I personally flat out won't do anywhere on anyone. If I can recognize it immediately as a symbol to something connected to one of those things, whether it's a gang symbol or just like a co-opted kind of, like for a long time, the Aryan Brotherhood in prison used shamrocks and Irish imagery to denote certain things within their gang culture. And while those designs aren't necessarily inherently gang tattoos, to use them in certain ways are, and there's times you know the difference and times you don't know the difference, but you hope that you can pick up on enough of it that you can weed out the things that you don't want to do.
How do you stay on top of all that?
Exactly. Particularly without going out of your way to make connections in the gang world. It's not a kind of thing they publicize. It's the kind of thing you find out usually from other tattooers who have run into it. And I did this thing for this guy, and it turned out it wasn't exactly like he said it was. It was for this instead. So if you see somebody coming in the future looking for that, be aware that it means this. And we sort of keep each other in the loop.
Do you go to the tattoo convention in Philadelphia?
Every year.
Do you have a booth?
This year we will. I haven't worked that convention since it was Eddie's, and I was a kid. But
You did it with your father?
Yeah.
When you were a kid?
Yeah, and it was smaller then, significantly smaller then. It was in the Marriott Ballroom in the same place where they held my prom. Now it's on the second floor of the convention center. At the time there were 250 booths. Now there's 2,500. It's an entire different world.
Is it a national convention now?
It's the biggest one.
Is it really?
So back then, conventions were all individual, almost all individual, where each city had an organizer that held that city's convention. And they weren't connected. They weren't even necessarily friends with each other. They were just this city's convention. And Philadelphia's was run by a guy named Philadelphia Eddie. They called him Crazy Eddie. For a long time, he has Eddie's Tattoo on South Street and Eddie's Tattoo in Chinatown. They're two of the most long-running tattoo studios in Philadelphia. He was an institution, a legend. But towards the end of his career and life, he sold his shops and convention to a guy named Troy Temple, who turned it into something that is now called Villain Arts, which is nationwide. At last I counted, he had 34 shows every weekend, 52 weekends in a year. That's 18 weekends off. He has more shows than not by a lot and across the country. Philadelphia, though, is the original because it's the original, his home. It's the biggest one, and it's gotten bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger every year.
It sounds like you've really grown to love the
I have. It took 3 or 4 years. Honestly, it took until I stopped working for my father. When I went back after Drexel, it was the only place I could really know that I could get in, as I went back to work for my dad, and it went right back to the same dynamic it had been when I was 16. It was the same friction, the same aggravations, the same things that made me not want to be a part of it in the first place. And it took until I had worked for 2 or 3 other people and eventually decided I'm just going to work for myself, and went and opened up my own spot and figured out what my way actually looked like, came to find what my clientele looks like, the kinds of pieces I enjoy doing, and the type of people I like working with, and the things that make this mine. And from mine, I've worked into the industry, and I've come to a point in my career now where I don't really have that anymore. I will do basically anything in any style. I work with basically anybody. Personality types and style types are just like the next turn of the page in the industry, and I am who I am through all of it. And it took me a very long time to realize that none of those other things define me as an artist, because none of the work is mine anyway.
Well, that's going to bring me to my next question. I think you were reading my mind. It's an art.
Absolutely.
You're putting it somewhere on display.
On display is not up to me.
But
You could put it on display, or you could hide it forever.
Well, do you sign it?
No, never. If I engrave a mirror or if I do a painting, those things I'll sign. Things with resale value, I'll sign. That you want to know, I'm the guy who did it, it's not a knockoff. But a tattoo is your skin, and you don't want somebody else. Most people wouldn't want somebody else's signature on their skin. And the signatures people do choose to get are generally people who are far more famous than I am. And it's somebody like you went to a concert and you got them to sign your arm, or a ball game, and you went to a tattooer to get that signature tattooed. It's not the tattooer's signature. And to sign a piece of art in a tattoo form with the mark of the maker, A, takes away from it visually, B, takes away from it anatomically, and C, puts possession on another human, and that's just not okay. I don't own any part of you. If I've tattooed you, you own something I've done. I own none of it.
Okay. In your portfolio, I could go on about it, but you obviously do your homework. Are you the most famous tattooer on the main line?
No. I'm not even the most famous tattooer in my shop.
Oh, okay. Something that interests me, in your portfolio, you specifically mentioned cover-up sections, and it begs 2 questions for me. One is the romance, who the person was, and what they will become, and does it pertain to men and women? And I'll get to women later. So when someone comes in to your shop and they may have Kathy on their arm,
okay.
Well, now Kathy doesn't exist anymore.
Not
Kathy didn't die.
Right.
Kathy was part of the ugly divorce.
And to move on from a part of your life that you no longer associate with.
Yeah. So what do you do?
It's a natural part of human evolution to move on from parts of ourselves that we no longer associate with. But then when you wear a constant reminder of it, it's really hard to finish that transformation. Some people are better at ignoring it than others, and there are people who will wear tattoos they don't like for the rest of their lives. But there are also people who need that gone in order to finish their transformation. They need to stop the reminder in order to complete their own mental reframing. And for an ex, it usually comes when they're ready to pursue another relationship or have already pursued another relationship, and they're looking at the landscape of possibilities compared to the weight that they're currently wearing, and they need something that represents their new, freer self. But I mean, then we get back to the self-expression of it. We know we want to get rid of that. But what story do we want to tell? Do we want it to stay about love? Or do we want it to be anti-love? Do you want to write a void stamp over top of it in red, or a circle with a line through it? Do you want to cover it with something aggressive? Or do you want to keep it more in the realm of hope and joy and love and cover it with something more pleasant? What part of yourself do you want to turn out? Because most of the time when tattoos get covered up, it's not because of a thing they got for themselves. It's a thing they got for an external validation, a group that they no longer associate with, or a relationship they're no longer a part of, or a band they no longer like, or a specific literal thing that doesn't apply anymore. And when you reframe it towards internally, towards a piece of who you are, even if that isn't necessarily who you are anymore, you'll always reflect on that piece and that time of your life and that motivation, that series of thought processes, and reflect on that stage of you instead of on that ex or that band or that group that you wanted to impress. It's internalized. So the number one thing with any good cover-up is to make sure that the new piece is internalized and that it's never going to end up a thing that you fall out of love with the same way you did the first one.
Right. What about like a military person? Like you'd see a person that was in the military.
It's a great example. And there's a lot of people who are former military who wear symbols of their military service as badges of honor for the rest of their lives, and they love that this is a thing they get to show. There are also some people who, while they were in the service, got tattooed in solidarity with the people in the service in an attempt to impress and to fit in and to be a part of the clique, as it were, in their particular group. And they may grow to not relate to the piece that they got in quite the same way as if they had gotten something for themselves.
I notice that I see a lot of women with tattoos.
More and more and more.
That's what I was getting to.
Oh yeah, that goes also back to putting us on TV. You put us in households. You made it less scary. As soon as you get LA Ink, Miami Ink, Ink Master, Tattoo Nightmares, pop, 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 pop on all the TV shows across the country, all of a sudden it's not like a seedy, scary place where bikers and sailors go and smoke in dark rooms and make each other angry and listen to heavy metal music. It's all of a sudden an open option, a bright place where I might bring my 18-year-old daughter to get her belly button tattooed. And while I'm there, oh, it's actually really nice in here, and these people are cool, and I like that pretty rose, and all of a sudden it becomes a possibility in a way that it had never been a possibility before. And that's 25 years ago now, 30 years ago. So we're in a world where it's been normal for an entire generation, and the new generation coming up has never even thought about it. The kids who are turning 18 now, men and women, it's completely equal. People get tattooed, don't get tattooed, based on everything but gender.
You said 18. Is there an age? I heard you say 18. They bring your 18-year-old daughter in. So is there an age that you have to, like a 15-year-old can't come in and said, I want you to tattoo. Can they do that?
Depends on where they go. In Pennsylvania, there are 0 state laws about tattooing at all, period. Legally, anybody can get tattooed. And if you get caught tattooing a minor, and both parents agree to try to press charges, which is necessary, because if one of them says, nope, I don't care, then the other one's opinion is void. They both have to agree to try to press charges. Then they can attempt to get the tattooer for endangering the welfare of a minor. But tattooing a minor specifically isn't a crime. It's not a law. There isn't anything on the books at all. And so what you find is most reputable tattoo studios in the state of Pennsylvania draw a hard line of their own and just say, we won't tattoo anyone under the age of 18. And if you find a shop that is willing to tattoo people under the age of 18, either there's some really heavy paperwork involved and you're going to have to bring a series of photo IDs for everybody involved and fill out a whole bunch of papers and sign a bunch of things and make sure that we know everything's above board, or it's going to be a disreputable shop that you probably don't want to go to.
When someone comes in and has a design that they want, and you tell them what they want, after you show them the design, you draw it for them before you put it on their arm, right?
Absolutely.
Or leg or wherever you're going to put it. do they have to sign a release saying, okay, this is what you wanted? They can't come back and say, well, no, that's not what I really wanted. I wanted it to look like this.
Oh, we sign a waiver ahead of time for all clients, and it covers all things. And the art itself being final is a part of those things. There is a bullet point on the waiver for misspellings are not the responsibility of the tattooer. There are bullet points for everything that has ever come up. But ultimately, there's no consequence for that either. Like, a dissatisfied customer is a dissatisfied customer whether or not they signed a waiver. And there isn't really repercussion other than having a dissatisfied customer whether or not they signed a waiver. The reputation of it is the problem. You don't want a person walking around with a piece that they don't love. And so you have to go out of your way to make sure that when they show their friends, they tell the happy story so that their friends want to come get tattooed. Because if they go, oh, he ignored me, he didn't care about what I wanted, he wanted to do what he wanted to do, and he put this thing on me that I'm not really happy with, and he didn't give me a chance to sign off on the design, it makes you look bad. And that's most of what keeps reputations intact in this industry, is the attempt to look right.
Did you ever have anybody have that? Like, you ever had that experience?
Not after the tattoo. I have had clients, it's been a long time, thank goodness, but I have had clients who we've gone back and forth over the artwork ad nauseum and just can't come to an agreement on what it is that we're actually looking for. And at a certain point, one or the other of us decides, maybe I'm just not the artist for you and you should go talk to somebody else about this design. But to my knowledge, I've never had a client after the tattoo decide that they didn't like the design. That said, I've been tattooing a long time at this point, and I'm sure some of my old work has been covered by tattooers who weren't me, and I'll never know.
How long have you been a tattoo artist?
Well, I did my first tattoo in 2001.
Oh,
so
24
years.
24 years, okay.
But I, like I said, spent some time trying not to be a tattooer. I took it very casually, didn't take any of it seriously until I was in my early 20s, 2009, 10. So really more like 15 years of actually actively pursuing tattooing.
In my opinion, but I'll ask you yours, are tattoos addictive?
Yes. I mean, it depends on the person to a certain extent. There are the rare individuals who come out with a positive tattoo experience and still only want one tattoo. It happens. It's very strange, but it happens. Most of the time, the people only end up with one tattoo, it's because they had a negative experience. And anybody who comes out of it with a positive experience wants to do it again, and I call that addictive.
Is there any part of a body you won't tattoo?
No. Skin is skin is skin is skin. Doesn't matter who or where.
What about, there are certain parts of, when you tattoo a woman in a certain area, do you have another woman, do you have a witness present?
No. I have a big Soji screen that I put up for privacy if clothes have to come off for any kind of intimate placement. But it is what it is. There's nobody else in the room to get in the way. That's cross-contamination concern. There's also the movement concern. And it's also just space restriction. There isn't enough room for that. It's an intimate but professional.
Are you like a rock star and like maybe people fall in love with you?
I don't think so.
No?
You'd have to ask them.
Explain to me the transition of, I have a few tattoos.
Okay.
And I'm going to have you doctor one of them up for me, as you and I have talked about. I never understood how the ink becomes permanent in one's skin and the colors and all that. Can you?
Well, so the most important thing to remember on that count is that it's not ink, really. Ink is a colored liquid, and tattoo pigments are solids suspended in a liquid. The liquid itself is usually just glycerin or alcohol or water. It's clear. The color, the thing that makes the color in the skin and in the bottle, is a ground up particle. It's a physical, you can dry thing. And once it's tattooed into the body, the liquid's absorbed by the body. The solid is the thing that's left behind. It's the particle in the skin. And so as long as it's through the epidermis and into the dermis, the permanent layers, the under layers of skin, because the epidermis is going to flake off as it heals, and anything trapped in that surface layer is going to be gone. So if it wasn't deep enough to begin with, it could not be there by the time it's healed. But anything through that and into the dermis is going to be there. How cleanly it's there depends on how well it was tattooed, and what level of the dermis and how consistently and how much pigment was pushed at a time. Comes down to angles and hand speed and a whole bunch of variables and educated guessing based on inaccurate and inconsistent information. But it stays because the particle itself gets trapped by a cell called a microphage, which is a part of your immune response. It tries to get rid of any invader cells. It tries to identify what's harmful and not, and activate the immune system when necessary, and it walls off anything that it can to try to keep it from getting anywhere further into the space of the body. It prevents invasions. And once it realizes that the inert particle is not a threat and requires no further immune response, the swelling goes down, everything chills, your skin heals, the epidermis, the superficial nature of the wound is similar to a light burn, even a sunburn. If it's done properly, it heals really quickly and really easily. And the microphage builds a little wall around each of the little particles in the dermis that stay there forever.
How did you learn all that?
Slowly.
Slowly?
Yeah. You pick up bits here and there from experts here and there in different fields. There isn't really a compiled list of information that's applicable to tattooers. My dad did his best to compile as much of it as he possibly could, but he didn't really have a full understanding of what he was looking for or what he was looking at. And so it's taken the rest of my career to come to the level that I'm at now. And I'm still learning every day. I don't think any of us are really fully complete.
And you really love doing it.
And I really love doing it.
Did you ever tattoo anyone famous?
Personally, I've tattooed a few people who niche crowds might consider famous, skateboarders and the like. But my dad's shop in Southampton, we had Pink and her mom come in once. That was probably the most famous person I've ever seen in the shop. And they both got tiny little kanji symbols, and it was a really cute day. And people were very excited that she was there.
Yeah, that would be neat. Is there anything we didn't cover? You are on social media?
I am, yeah, on Instagram.
Instagram.
Yes, at jtrip360.
Just jtrip360, and people can Google you, as I said earlier.
Yep, jtrip
and
tattoo.
find out who you are. Is there anything anything else you want to say?
Nothing I got, man. Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
It was. You were fun. You were a fun guy. Who's on the shirt?
That's Betty White. She's the Betty White Ranger.
Thank you.
No problem,
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And thank you for our producer-director, Kevin. Again, it's been a pleasure, and thank you very much.